the Bears have a lot of talent. For a coach coming in do I believe I can do something with Caleb or not? That's kind of what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Because you're not coming in, you're not moving him. That's not an option. It's that is your quarterback for the next at least 2 years, and you either can fix the offense or not. All right.
The other thing you have to consider with that job though is look at your division.
Mm-hmm.
That's
probably the toughest division in football right now.
You have the three other teams are really strong teams.
Yeah.
And granted, two are a little disappointing in the playoffs this week, but they kind of have young nucleuses, and they're not teams that are like scheduled to implode in the next 2 seasons
or on their way out or anything like that. Just to round this out now, as far as on NFL head coach openings, that may be a little more attractive. You have the Bears out there. Now, the Bears have a lot of talent. For a coach coming in do I believe I can do something with Caleb or not? That's kind of what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Because you're not coming in, you're not moving him. That's not an option. It's that is your quarterback for the next at least 2 years, and you either can fix the offense or not. All right.
The other thing you have to consider with that job though is look at your division.
Mm-hmm.
That's
probably the toughest division in football right now.
You have the three other teams are really strong teams.
Yeah.
And granted, two are a little disappointing in the playoffs this week, but they kind of have young nucleuses, and they're not teams that are like scheduled to implode in the next 2 seasons
or on their way out or anything like that.
And when you look at taking a coaching job, the way these things move, you're looking at a 2-year window tops to establish something. And some of these guys have lost jobs in a year. We talked about that last week. But if you're taking a job, you're looking at most 2 years.
Yeah, and that's why I said Caleb is your quarterback for 2 years.
Yeah.
So you have to believe in that or not.
But and my thing is equally looking at that, you're still looking at 3 teams in your division
100%
that are in good position for the next 2 years.
100%.
As well.
You have the Jets as another option, New York Jets. They do have flexibility because you don't have to bring back Aaron Rodgers if you don't want to. You can get rid of that circus, or you can bring the circus back in town. I think the new head coach will have a say in that because
I don't think there's a way that a new head coach brings Aaron Rodgers back because for the same reason you're on like a 2-year thing, and he's already decayed. Like you don't want to align yourself with him for your 2-year run out tops. You've got to have a better option than that. And the problem is okay, you could take the job with the agreement you're going to let go of Rodgers, but you don't have anything in place. You'd have to go into the market, or you'd have to draft a guy and roll with him pretty early.
And their answer has to be market. They don't have an extremely high draft pick, right? So you're going to miss out on Cam and Shador, probably the third one draft. That the third quarterback was going to be drafted as well. So you're going to be looking to maybe poach Sam Darnold away from Minnesota. You're going to be looking in that type of market. And then also you can still draft a quarterback, but just not start him right away.
Yeah.
The Jaguars is another option here. Okay. Because they fired Doug Peterson. Yeah. It's the Trevor Lawrence thing, kind of similar to Caleb. Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback for the next year or two. For sure, they just paid him 2 years.
If you're signing up for that job, it's with the understanding that Trevor's your guy.
Yeah.
And
a softer division though.
And again, for that reason, and like a more veteran guy.
Yeah.
He's more established as to more of a known quantity. Now you may have a more upside mobility for Caleb Williams if he kind of sorts it out and makes a leap than you do with Trevor, because Trevor's 4 or 5 years into this and closer to kind of whatever it is he's going to be in this league. And for Trevor, he has been mildly disappointing as the top pick and all the accolades that he had coming in. He really only had like the one good season when they made a playoff run. But in both of the last 2 seasons, which have seen the Jags sort of implode, particularly down the stretch, he got hurt. He hadn't finished the season. And hasn't come close to finishing the season. And so, you can kind of write a little bit of that off and say, well, hey, if he's fully healthy and makes it through a season, the Jags are probably, last year they probably make the playoffs on the fringe. This year they're probably not among the bottom dwelling teams in the league, closer to maybe like a 7-8 win team based on the trajectory that they had. But you went basically, I think, 6-7 games with Mac Jones, and it's hard to overcome that guy.
100%. Now there's two more. The Saints is the worst. It's the worst opening of all, even worse than the Cowboys. They're in the worst salary cap situation of all the teams. Derek Carr, you're stuck with him. There's nothing else you can do as far as bringing someone of significance because of the salary cap, and they lack talent. And that has to be that's going to be an inexperienced coach is going to come in there and just be happy to have an NFL coaching job.
For a season and a half.
Yeah, and then he's going to get fired as well.
You've had like the collapse of the career of Mike Thomas. He's non-entity now.
Yeah.
And then this year, Olave had the massive concussion issues. He may not be gone. I mean, there's two talented offensive guys that are basically lost to the Saints through injury going forward. And both guys look promising. I'm just not a Carr fan. And I would not want any part of that job. No parts of that job. I'm sure a black guy end up getting it. Best of luck to you. And lastly, we have the Raiders. The Raiders have some things going for them and some things not. Some things not. It's a tough division for the foreseeable future. And the good thing is they have a decent draft pick. Okay, with some salary cap flexibility, there's something you can do here with this opportunity here. I agree with that. I think they've got to get the quarterback piece sorted out, whether that's going to be drafting a guy in this draft or whether that's going to be aggressively pursuing somebody of significance that they want to get their hands on. And again, I do think like all things on balance, like playing in Vegas, attracting players to come to Vegas, probably not the most difficult job in the world.
Yeah.
And so they should have a little bit of
free agency. Okay.
Free agency and stuff like that. It's probably not going to be the toughest sell to say, hey, come out to Vegas and we got Tom Brady out here and we just got a young quarterback and let's go win.
Now Kobe is saying he loves the Bears opening mostly because he likes the quarterback, and then he's saying Aaron Rodgers' situation is worse than the Cowboys. I think we can agree with that, especially if you're talking about bringing him back and stuff like that. Yeah, that's worse.
And you have to think too that Devontae Adams is connected to the Rodgers decision.
But if you're Devontae, I mean, do you want to follow Aaron around?
Even if Aaron retired, I don't know. I don't know that the Jets want to keep him.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, he'll probably. I think again, I don't know his specific contract, but he's kind of in the DeAndre Hopkins phase of his career.
Mm.
There's production. He's been an elite guy, but I think he's reached that point where he's going to kind of be a little bit disposable.
I like that, and maybe he can. Maybe he's with the Bills next year.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it could work out for him.
Yeah.
It could be nice, but he's not going to be regarded in that absolute upper tier receivers any longer.
Jefferson and all those guys. No. And then lastly, he says, which we can go into next. Speaking of Darnold, did he play himself out of a big contract? Now, remember last week we were talking about who has the most pressure, and then I told you about the Sam Darnold thing, and there you go. Yeah. 2 weeks in a row, he plays terrible. I thought the Detroit Lions game, I didn't think he could play any worse than that. He was really bad in that game, in the last final game of the season to get home field, and then you get into your first playoff game, and you look really bad. On the stat sheet, it's like whatever, 245, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but that's why you have to watch the games. I mean, because he was just holding on to the ball. He gets sacked 9 times, threw a really bad interception. He looked awful. He looked like a guy that I wouldn't want to give any significant amount of money to in his offseason. That's what he looked like.
Now, up until week 17, he looked like a guy that, hey, if they don't want to keep this guy, let's go get him.
Yeah.
And after the last 2 weeks combined, every question that you had about Sam Darnold is still in play.
Yeah.
Is he really that guy? Can he play consistently? Can he rise to the moment of high leverage games when that's what you want a quarterback for? We don't need you to win 14 regular season games and be done in the first round.
Now there's a huge divide. There are one side of the room, people are saying, well, for 15, 16 games, he played really well. The Vikings have to bring him back at least on the franchise him or something, keep him in for another year or two while you bring along JJ, this, and that. Maybe even give him a contract that's in the Baker range. He's earned that. And then you have the other side of the room, which I'm on, which is move along. Let him find something else. You drafted a rookie last year. If not for nothing, he looked good in the preseason. Okay, and that's your quarterback for the future. You move on now, because even with the franchise tag, even though you're not investing in him long term, you're still paying him relatively top quarterback money. What is that, top 10, top 15? It's like 42, 45 million. You know what I mean? For one season. To what? Just come back to this again?
Yeah, the most attractive thing is probably the franchise tag. For that reason, you're not committing long term. JJ McCarthy's coming off an injury. But if I'm making this decision with the Vikings, and I think they'd be the ones to be in position, you're going to make a decision based on the health of J.J. McCarthy. Is he literally ready to roll now? And you're also going to do it on, how was Sam Darnold this year? We know what he did in the games, but was he a guy that was really a fabric of your locker room guy? Was he really solid? Did he do a lot for younger players? If those are all check the boxes, I would be tempted to, if there's any concern about JJ's health, and Sam Darnold checked all the off-field boxes and really did everything you'd want a quarterback to do until the last two games, I'd be tempted to roll with the franchise tag, because you could start the season with him. If he plays poorly, you could transition to JJ and then take off from there. If you just kind of let him walk and bank entirely on JJ, I don't know. You have to be real confident that his health and his development is on track.
Start the clock now. That's my opinion. Start the clock. Let's start the JJ experience now. I know what Sam is. He fooled us for a few weeks, but a clown has to show his face at some time. At some point or another, he has to put the mask on. He can't help himself. He can walk around in plain sight. For as long as possible, but at some point he has to put the mask on. It's who he is, and we know who he is. It's over. And you have such a strong team, and from Sam's point of view, the Minnesota Vikings is the perfect. You're not gonna get anything close to that in the open market. They're such a strong team. They have weapons galore everywhere. You have two of everything. Two receivers. You got dominant tight end, running game, offensive line, top 3 offensive line. Defense is awesome. Innovative offensive game plan. So for Sam Darnold, is maybe your agent walks in and hopefully gives them a team friendly offer. God forbid they come in there and start demanding shit. Because then you can really kick rocks.
But your analysis of Sam Darnold, though, is that, not only should the Vikings pass, that there should be a really dry market for him across the league.
Depending on the team situation. I'm saying from the Minnesota, you have JJ in your back pocket. Depending on health, I agree with that point there. Of course, if he's going to take another 6-7 months to whatever. But if he's able to go from training camp on, I'm saying you have to roll with that and roll with that investment that you already made. Now, for other teams like the Jets, if they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers, things like that,
bring back Sam Darnold,
huh?
Bring Sam. Darnold
I'm sorry,
back?
But I'm just saying teams such as that.
That
Why not?
would be interesting.
Homecoming, but or the Raiders. If you can't, if you get outbid by for one of the top 2 quarterbacks, there are other teams that it makes more sense for. Now, I think he'll be worse with those teams that are, less talent, because he's not a guy who can uplift marginal guys. He's the type of guy that he needs elite talent to uplift him. But hey, there are other teams that need quarterbacks. I think this talent that the Minnesota Vikings have can make McCarthy serviceable to the same degree as Sam Darnold. That's what I believe.
Could be. I mean, that's the thing. We you know he was so his time was so brief this year that you just really didn't get to see.
No,
You know, and it is a weird thing when you're sitting out with injury. Like, how much growth and development are you able to do? Now, some people, really benefit a lot when they're injured and kind of learn some stuff about the game that they didn't before, and it can really be an asset. I just don't know what category JJ McCarthy's falling into.
Facts.